Hey folks, welcome back. I'm going to bring you along on this job here with front axle or differential seals. This happens to be a 1997 Ford F350. It has the lovely Dana 50 twin I-beam axle. I say that with sarcasm as far as the lovely goes. These things aren't the greatest designs. It's nothing really hard about it. There's just a lot of work to do what we got to do. We've got a leaking axle seal right off the differential there, and we will show you right where that's at. And when you're underneath the here, looking at it going back towards the front, you can see right there we've got a pretty decent leak. And then on this side, it appears like it has a leak. Most of the time you'll see it coming out of this area and all that. This all happens to be coming from the oil cooler on that side, but this side, no. This side is definitely leaking from right here. Now, this axle will slide out of the differential, and you're going to have it out of there to do what we got to do. This side, however, if this was able to come out, you could just replace the seal from out here. But that's not, they can't make everything easy. So anyways, you're going to have to separate it, from here. Just cut, like this has got a zip tie. Sometimes if these haven't been done, they might have the original. I like using hose clamps on these, but putting them back together. But it's going to have something, it's missing on the back side of this too. Usually kind of a crimp clamp deal. One time use to is you have to cut it off, but then this axle will peel this boot off of there, and the axle will come out that way, provided you take everything apart there that we need to do. And then you got these two bolts right here that are on that, and then your rear drive line, you have to take it loose. And then you undo all of these bolts right here, and that's going to separate the back of this differential. I'm going to use a transmission jack to get that, and leave the top bolt in place. Loosen it, but leave it in place and take all the rest of them out, and then we'll break this apart with like a pry bar or something like that, let all the oil drain out of it. And then we'll get the jack in here when it's kind of done dripping and whatnot. I'm going to do that first, actually, before I get to working on any of this stuff here, because then we can let it drip and whatnot. So, because it'll move a little bit. It just won't come out without our axles out of there. So anyways, that's what we're going to do. Seems like a lot of work just to replace that seal, but that just is what it is. That's how it works. That's how it's put together, and that's how we're going to have to do it. Okay, so with the front drive line unhooked and tucked away, and then we've got all of these bolts out except for the top one there, which is just loose. And don't worry about that plug. And then we got these two bolts out of the side right here. Now we're going to come in here with a pry bar and just kind of pry up on this thing with a oil catch steel, and we'll get it off. Okay, so basically what we did here, you can tap on this a little bit if you need to get it broken loose or whatever, and get a pry bar, kind of in there, push up on here, whatever. But it will, flex a little bit. So now we've got, all the oil drained in there. I did this yesterday, so I'll be free of oil and everything when we start, pulling this thing apart and not dripping all over the place. But anyways, what we got to do now, we got to get both of these spindles off so we can slide the axles out. Like I said, this axle side will just slide right out, the whole thing. This one right here, remember we were talking about needing to pull this, snip this zip tie right here on this boot, and then here, I can probably take this out so you can see how this moves. Just enough to get the oil out of it. And then yeah, and then we'll separate it and get the axle pulled out that way, and then we'll get our jack up in here, and so we have, you know, a place to lift this kind of down, and we have to kind of like tilt it around a little bit sort of, and get it out of there. So anyways, it's not too bad, just kind of a stupid design, but whatever, it is what it is. Okay, once you get the wheel off, if you don't have a dually, you're pretty much just not going to have this spacer. Everything else will be all right, but you're going to have to get in here, get this hub off of here. I think the spacer, if I remember right, can stay in place. It's been a little bit since I did a dually, but you know, and then obviously you got to get your brake all off of here. You know, some of these earlier ones, you know, had some kind of a little wedge deal that you'd have to drive out, you know, with a punch or something like that, but these ones aren't like that. You just have to get these bolts off of here to get the caliper off, and then these bolts right here will get your little brake housing or whatever, the pad housing off. I don't remember what they call that. Yeah, we'll keep on going there to get this hub off of here. Be real careful with these, not strip these out. Make sure you get a good fit in the socket. Don't use any power tools right at first. Break them loose. Get this off here, because it sucks having to drill these things out. Pretty much having to replace the whole thing after that. So anyways, yeah, so we're going to do that. And then once we get this off of here, we're going to do this first. Once we get this off, I'll walk you through how to get the nut and everything else off so we can get this whole spindle out of here and go from there. Yeah, like I said, you got to be real careful. What I found in this particular hub setup, and it's going to depend on what brand and all that, but a T20 Torx fit in here the best, and I got most of them except for two. They're started to strip, so then I pounded in a T25 Torx and then got them. So you want to get all of these screws out of here. Just a little bit of tip to offer there. And that just pulls out of here like that, and then we can get this screw out of here and then start pulling all these gears. Once the screw comes out of here, then there's a snap ring right in here. Actually, no, we don't need to take that screw out of there. We just need to get this big snap ring out of here. Let me see if I can find a stand for this camera. Just kind of take a little screwdriver and just kind of find the end, and it's hard to explain what it is, but it's like it's coiled around itself a few times, but kind of once you get, sometimes these picks are your friend. Once you get the first part of it out, just kind of work it around a little bit. Yeah, I said this thing kind of Comes back on itself, kind of a sort of a slinky design or whatever like that. That's pretty much, that's what you do. And then now I'm going to give me a bigger screwdriver. Sometimes you can get it in here like this and just got to kind of work it out. It's possible I might be forgetting. Let's go ahead and get this screw out of here, and then we can allow us to get that gear out and the spring. So just remember that went in there like so, and then don't lose. Oh, this is another snap ring right here. It's really loose. I don't think that's what was holding this in, but it's going to need to come out nonetheless. I'll just come in here with a pair of snap ring pliers. That. All right, here we go. Just screw some of the original screws in there, and that will allow you to get that hub and everything out of there. And what it does is it exposes the nut that we need to get. Right there, see these little square teeth or whatnot? We're gonna have a special socket to get that off. Tool looks just like this. This happens to be the brand, and I have no idea where I got it from. But these things are I'll show you how that nut goes on there, but that it started in there like so. This one should be fairly tight because it is the jam nut, and it's not very tight. So you'll run into that every once in a while, but it's technically supposed to be pretty tight. There's two nuts on here, and I'll show you how this all works. But okay, so see how that nut goes in there. Oops, you're not able to see. Sorry about that. Just like that. Now the next thing to come out of there this is where your hook, your like a 90-degree pick or something like that's going to be your best friend there. Sometimes getting two of them. Sometimes get one on each side. There we go. Okay, you'll notice this has got all these holes and stuff in it. They're actually spaced out somewhat differently, and you can flip this thing over. We'll talk about that later. But now we got the other nut, and since the jam nut wasn't very tight. I'm just going to go in here with a screwdriver and just get in one of these holes, you know, the slots, and just turn this thing out. I mean, you can stick the nut or the socket, the special socket on there too, but you know, we'll just get this worked out. All right. Now I'll show you this here in a little bit. I'll get it all cleaned up and I'll show it to you. What's special about the two nuts. Okay, you can kind of pull the spindle a little bit until the outer bearing kind of comes out, just so you can get it out of here, not drop it.
Hold on.
Okay, here's what you want to be careful with and take note of is these two nuts appear to be the same, except for this one right here has got this little nub on there. So this is your outer bearing. And so what you're going to do is you're going to end up tightening this nut down, you know, set the bearing, you know, get it really tight, spin the spindle a couple times, tighten it up a little bit more, back it off about a quarter of a turn, and then this deal will go on here, and you're going to have to line it up. Sometimes you'll have to turn the nut just a little bit. You can flip this thing over. A lot of times that'll work to get it lined up, but if not, you might have to move the nut just ever so slightly and get that in there like so, and then your jam nut will tighten up on the outside of that, and then you torque that thing down. I don't remember the numbers, we'll figure that out, but you know, you need to get it really tight. So that's how that goes. Okay, so now pull the spindle off. And then when we did, the spring came out of this seal, so obviously that's going to need to be replaced, but it should be replaced anyways because you should pull out the bearing. And then so the next thing what we got to do is we got to get these nuts off of here and get this whole cover piece will slide out, and then we can pull the axle after that. But yeah, like I said, you'll need to get in here, pop this seal out. This is like doing trailer bearings, old school. And then, yeah, clean and inspect your bearing, just like I did here. Find out if you need to replace those or not. And then, yeah, like I said, we'll just get these nuts off of here, get that thing off. Okay, once you got them bolts off there, you can take something like a rubber hammer or dead blow or something like that. Get it to where it loosens up. You don't want to hit with a regular hammer because you don't want to be damaging these threads or these places where these bearings ride and stuff like that. And that'll come off there. Now in here, you want to inspect and grease. Here's another seal. And then I'll show you all the part numbers, all the seals you're going to need and everything. But you know, clean grease, and you want to inspect. There's a bearing in here, and you want to inspect to make sure that's good. Here's another seal right here that you'll end up replacing, or should replace. And then while you're in here, probably do the U-joints too. You see this axle will just slide right out of here, but the one on the passenger side will not. So I'll show you how that goes when we get that put together. So, or when we get that going apart. But so anyhow, keep on going. So that's pretty much how you do that. I just kind of do stuff like this so I don't lose these nuts or accidentally kick them across the shop or do something like that. So anyways, we're going to do the same exact thing on the passenger side, minus just one different thing about pulling this axle shaft out of there. We're going to get that boot underneath the axle there and get that little zip tie snipped, and then that's going to be how that's gonna go. So anyhow, we'll keep on going. All right, so I'm going to park you guys right there. This is that you know, the inner U-joint right here. It's in about the center of the axle. So I went ahead and I cut the zip tie off of the boot right here, and I just kind of take a pry bar and just kind of push it back like so, and just start working it, you know, so it doesn't break loose that way. And then we go ahead and slide the axle out just like we did on the other side. Like that. So that's pretty much all you're doing. Okay, now we are ready to remove, get the jack up into place and remove that last bolt up there, and finagle that whole differential piece out of there. That's all going to go with it right there. So we'll keep on going. Well, it comes out just like that. So we'll clean all this up. Believe it or not, there's a seal in here. And then we got to get this shaft out of here so we can also clean up all this. We're going to replace this U-joint since we got this thing out of here. But to get that shaft out of there, see that kind of a C clip right there? Kind of just need to get like a screwdriver or chisel and just kind of pound it, you know, snap it back off of there, and then this shaft will come out of here. Now I can't remember, it doesn't appear that these gears will do anything whether you have one side or the other out, so something to, you know, watch. Sometimes you have these things, you start taking axles or things apart, these gears might kind of like fall out of place and they'd be a pain in the butt to get back in there. Right now you can see that they're, you know, it's all in, but I don't think so because this center shaft here doesn't come out, so I don't see the fact that these gears here would fall out, so don't think so. Your other axle comes in on this side, and that's just doesn't have one of these C-clips on there. Like I said, if we didn't have that C-clip on this side, you could have just pulled this shaft out of here and just replaced this seal, but got to do it this way. But that enables us to get this seal done also, which needs to be done, and then all the other seals and everything else in there that's probably bad from being an old pickup. So anyways, yeah, we're gonna have to get in here, and here's what back side of that. So we're going to get all that silicone, get all that dirt and everything cleaned out of there, especially when we go back in with the new one. We don't want any of that dirt getting stuck on the new silicone as we try to guide that differential back in there, and get all that cleaned up. So that's what we'll be working to do, and then I'll show you some of these seals and everything like that as we go along. All right, with this seal right here, this is on the for the driver's side. This is what it actually, you know, looks like new. You know, this is all metal and everything like that. So this is a Napa part number for this particular seal. And to get it out, you kind of just, it's kind of got this lip all around here. So I get something like this, you know, and then we'll just kind of hit it with a hammer, kind of just peel this thing up a little bit. Just go all the way around. Our seal's starting to move. Pop it out. And then obviously we got some dirt in here that we need to get all cleaned out of there and everything like that, you know, we'll just okay, with that all cleaned up here, take the new seal, just gonna get it sort of started, and I don't know, I'm gonna grab something like this, something that's kind of flat, you know, just a piece of metal here, and just kind of hold it like so, and then just give it one good hit. And she drove down all the way. So, and while we're doing that, I'm just gonna stick a rag in there just to keep junk from getting in there. You don't have to put the new seal in right now, but you know, it's just what I'm going to do. So now what we need to do is we need to get this it's kind of a C-clip thing right there, kind of worked out of there. You can either, might try taking a screwdriver and see if I can just kind of work it out of there. So get that. We'll see if I can do this while y'all can see. Just like that. So that's what that looks like. Now we need two hands. I'll roll this thing over, and then we can pull that shaft out of there. Well, here, I'll just set this camera on a stand. Need to have y'all back up here. Just like so. And then, believe it or not, there's a seal in there underneath all this crap. This is the one that was actually leaking. So what we're gonna do is get all this, as much as this stuff we can get out of here. And I actually was gonna stuff this in there, but I'm not even wanting to do that because I don't want to get, well, so I can just do it like that and at least keep some crap from getting in there while we pull that seal out of there. This we're gonna go throw in the parts cleaner, and then we're gonna, you know, even though this U-joint feels good and everything, we're gonna replace it because it's so easy to do right now versus when it's in the pickup. So keep on going. Okay, we're gonna try something like this crow's foot here. Try to get in here and just kind of pop that seal out. That was pretty easy. Get all this stuff out of here so that we don't drop none of this gunk in here. Pull this rag out a little bit. There we are. Now I just need to clean up all around here. I don't got this new seal quite yet, so I want to make sure it's the right one before I show you all. But you can see it's just a whatever brand this one is. Here's a part number, this 40773, and then you know what we'll do is we'll get a socket or something that fits exactly on here. We'll just carefully drive it in, but we're gonna go ahead and get all the grease and everything like that cleaned out around here. So I'll get that done. Okay, so we got our other seal here. This is the Napa part number, and there it be. So we'll just get it there, and then I'm gonna find a socket rather the same size here, and we'll just tap that in there. Okay, so set this here. And one thing about seals that seems to help, and it doesn't sometimes make sense, is your first hit, if you really give it a good whack, kind of like I did with that other seal, usually that's pretty good rather than just little taps and stuff. But you know, they just like that, and that got it started really good. And you'll be able to feel when it goes in. So there we go, just like that. Okay, so we got our U-joint, new U-joint put on there, and so we're going to go ahead and slide this back in there and get that C-clip put in here. Put a little bit of grease or something on the rubber part of this seal right there, just so it slides nice and easy. You don't nick anything on there. Worst thing to do would be to ruin that seal and have it leak again after you've done all this work, because you'd have to take it apart again to fix it. All right, it's just like that. Once you get it started, just clicks in there like so. All right, so now this is all. I'm gonna do a little bit more cleaning on it, but just a little bit. But you can also do the pinion shaft, but that doesn't have to be done now, because you know that could be something that can be replaced when this thing is in place or whatever. So ours isn't leaking, so we opt to just not do it right now, because if it starts leaking later on, we can replace the pinion seal here without taking any of this stuff apart. So it pretty much, you know, that's a rule of thumb. If you know, that's unless you're rebuilding the whole dang thing. But in this case, we're just gonna go do that. So next thing we got to do is we got to get all of the deal cleaned up inside of there, and get all the dirt and get all the old silicone and all that kind of stuff off of there, and get that cleaned up. So we'll keep on going. All right, so with this all cleaned up, now what we're gonna have to do is I'm gonna spread some silicone around on there, just like you would any differential pan cover, which is, I mean, this is basically the differential pan cover, but it's all part of the axle. This is a really stupid design. I can't believe they ever even came up with anything remotely close to this, but oh, whatever. But I have to get that deal on the jack and get it finagled up in here. I usually put the silicone on this side because you have less chance as you're trying to get the differential, you know, like up in there. You're gonna bump it on places like here and things like that. So you want to have all this kind of like, you know, clean and whatnot. You have lesser chance of disturbing the silicone if you put it on this part rather than on the differential itself. And then yeah, so it's just a matter of just getting it up there and just getting it maneuvered around into place and getting your bolts started, and then getting it tight. So that's pretty much what we got left to do right now. So we'll keep on going. Okay, I'm just getting to the point where we're just about to get these axles slid back in here. Now these seals right here, I'll show you how to put them on. They're not too bad. That's a Napa part number right there for it. And try to get the old one off and get the new one on there pretty easy. So all right, so sticking in the vise here, this little piece right here, this is usually how they come off, just break, you know, but it's either going to be there or it's not. Oh, I gotta find a screwdriver. I usually just come right underneath the lip here and just kind of tap it. Get it off of there. Clean up around where it's going to go. And you can see the orientation of it. So this is going to go towards the U-joint. This part is going to go. You can kind of get it started for the most part on here. And then I don't know, take some kind of a punch or something right in here in the metal. Right now I'm needing a little bit more force. My yoke is falling out. Probably gonna take something like this. A little bit more of a straight shot at it. There we go. And just make sure it seats down in there. You can see that the screwdriver, you know, made a couple of dents right there, but that's not a big deal. You know, this is your main seal right here. Stick some grease around it, and then we'll slide that in. Okay, so make sure the splines here are all clean and whatnot, and you've already put some grease lubrication in there. And usually you can get this in here, put your hand around back here like this to get this thing to guide in there without dragging itself in the dirt, or just clean the dirt out of the tube, one of the two. Okay, for that. Right now I'm turning to make sure we're in the splines and everything, so, and let that thing just rest right there. That's how we slide that axle in. Okay, now the passenger side, same way, except for we're just gonna have to get underneath the pickup, and we're gonna have to guide this those splines back in where they were, and then get that boot back over the top of there. Other than that, it's pretty much all the same. Put a little bit of grease, make sure these splines are all clean, and put a little grease on that. Usually about after I stick it through till it's about part way, then I'll go in there and put some grease on there. I'll see if I can find a good spot to set the camera up while I'm doing so. All right, so slide this axle in here. So the boot gets just a little bit about right there, so. And then we're going to if you put this like this, and you have the U-joint straight up and down like that, this will not want to fall, so that when you go to pull it in, you won't really, you know, risk hurting the seal or anything like that. So it should be fine. It's not too big of a deal. All right, grab us a little bit of grease here, and we'll grease up these splines. You can put a little bit around here where the boot goes around, make it slip on there just a smidge easier. Okay, and you just grab it like this, hold it in there, and then if you have to reach across and grab the yoke up there like I was talking about, so we get it in here without wrecking that other seal. And then the boot, you can see it slid right into place. So I don't have any thin I usually like to use hose clamps. I don't have any thin ones, so I'm gonna have to just use put a couple of zip ties on there, which is not too big of a deal. But that's how you slide that one in. All right, folks, so now we got these axles in here. The next thing we need to do is put this spindle on here. So there's one more seal right in here that keeps dirt and everything out of this. This is just a like a contact bearing, or roller bearing, for the axle to ride on and stuff there. So that's what this seal pretty much protects anything from getting in there. I know it's got this one, but this is more of a dust kind of a cover seal and whatnot, but they kind of both work together. So anyways, we got to get that pulled out of there, and then we'll get some new grease in there and everything. We're reusing all of our bearings and whatnot in this particular project here, so we're gonna be cleaning them all up, and then we'll get in here and get all this cleaned up and repack the bearings and stuff, and I'll just show you, bring you along how to get this thing put together and whatnot. You remember this is an adapter setup we talked about before. This is actually an F250 that's been converted to a dually. One of these studs broke, and got pounded another one out trying to source another one out. It's kind of a funky design. It's got a really big pressed in knurl area, so anyways, that's why these are missing, but that don't matter. We'll get it all put back together, and then we'll hopefully source the wheel stud out. So anyways, we're gonna get a puller here and just get the seal. This is the part number for this particular seal, and then I'll show you how to get it out and get the doing in. Okay, just grab something like this crow's foot here and just hook it in here, pop it out. So then you can see that roller bearing in there, and get some brake clean, and we'll clean up all the old grease out of there, and then we'll just finger in some new grease, try to get it in the bearing as much as we can, and then we'll install this. Okay, you got the new grease in there. Put even a little bit of light film around here, and I'm just going to take this seal and just very carefully, this is kind of all plastic on the top of this, but like that, a little bit of grease, and just put it on the rubber part of it so it goes in nice and smooth. There's really these holes are spaced different, so there's only one way that this goes on. Those bolts run up. All right. Okay, once that's on and tight, just light film of grease around everything, especially here on the deal where the seal rides. And then, okay, now the next thing we gotta do is we gotta get this wheel seal here pulled out. sometimes you can get it with something like this. You're going to get a different tool. And same thing, but just a little different style. And probably hopefully a little bit more of a bite to it. It's not working. Actual seal puller would be nice, but I don't have one. Usually I get them all out with these. But there's other ways you can do it too. Power bar here and just kind of like that went flying off the shop. Clear up there. Anyway, so there's your inner bearing right here, and we're going to get all this grease and all that cleaned out of the bearing and in the hub there, and get these bearings repacked with new grease. So okay, so once you got your bearing all packed with grease or whatever, I was using a actual like bearing packer here. Makes it a lot easier. What you do is get the seal and just tap it. Oh, come on. Just flush all the way around. Then oh, come on, camera focus. There we go. And you grab your hub, and we'll stick it in place. Okay, we'll grab our outer bearing. Push it all the way in. Then we've got our bearing nuts, and remember the one with this little nub notch right here, that's the one that needs going first, notch facing out. Okay, we've got our special socket here. This will give a pretty good snug to it as you're rotating the stuff. I'm going to need to get an extension for this. Okay, then we rotate this around. I'm going to back it off 90 degrees or a quarter turn. Just like Okay, so the next thing, we've got this spacer in here. It's got a notch that goes in the top. It goes in the top of that spindle, you know, right over the threads. And that little notch that's on the back of that nut needs to be in one of these holes. And then so right now the notch is kind of up here in about the 10 o'clock position. And so I'm going to stick this on there. If it doesn't line up, you can flip this over and these holes will be offset a little bit and it might fit in there. If not, still, then you'll have to just move the nut ever so a little bit. I usually go a little bit towards the loosening side of doing it that way, because when we get to tightening on the jam nut, they do kind of just tighten it just a smidge, little bit. I've done tons of trailers. This is kind of how this works. So we're gonna just get this in here. So we're not lined up. So we'll try just flipping this. And sometimes you can go in with a screwdriver or something and just barely. The nut should be somewhat loose because you know, when you back it off at 90 degrees or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and just pause while we're fighting with it. Okay, once you got that deal in there, we will take our outer nut, and it's got doesn't really matter which way it really goes in. We'll get it. Sometimes it is easier to put the nut inside of the socket to get it started. I don't know. I always seem like I try to do it this way at first and then ends up doing it this way, but it is what it is. Anyhow, that's how that goes in. This one you want to get pretty tight. I'm going to go grab a torque wrench and we'll make sure that it's at least 150, 180, somewhere now. Probably 180. Okay, next thing we're going to do is get this part of the hub back in here. Couple of splines it's got to line up with, and kind of reach around. I was reaching around there and turning the axle. Get that shoved in there, and then we've got snap ring to go right here. Okay. And then we've got this outer ring kind of just working it in here. There we go. Now, next thing is we got this screw. We had taken it out before. That goes like that. The screw just sort of kind of holds that in there and popping out. A chintzy design, but that's really how it goes. And I'll get these out. Go get some other tools that I don't have. All right, so we'll get this on here with the 6 bolts and again, I just like to use hand tools on these, and they just barely need to be snugged in there. I mean, they do not need to be. Just make sure that they sit. Test the functionality of it. We're going to have to pull it apart again, figure out why it's not unlocking. Sometimes they just get a little bit gummed up. There we go. Just had a little bit, maybe too much grease in there, so working now. Get the rest of the bolts put in, and then get all your brakes put back together. And fill your oil through the differential right in there just till the oil starts coming out, and you're good to go. Hopefully this help you out some. These are a really stupid design, but this is what they are. Naturally, we did have this all clean. We've got oil cooler sitting off of there, so I got to get more cleaning and all that kind of stuff done on that. So that has nothing to do with what we did on this project. But anyhow, thanks for watching.